Hey, if you're pregnant over 40, I have just the community for you. It's a private community away from Facebook where women just like you come together to meet and support one another during pregnancy. To sign up for the waitlist, go to over40fabulousandpregnant.com/waitlist and be the first to know when the membership is open. I can't wait to see you inside. Welcome to another episode of Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant. I am your host, Jamie Massey, and you're listening to episode 45. If you're looking for pregnancy stories of women over 40, you've come to the right place. And today on the show, we have Jake on to share her pregnancy story at 51. She did not use her own eggs. She used an egg donor, a known egg donor, and a very close egg donor, which I just think it's an amazing story. She had quite a few failed transfers. I think she had five failed transfers. When we recorded this, I was just on the edge of my seat, just like ready to hear her story. And even editing, it was the same way. It's such a good story. And for the community, that is my project for this weekend. I am hopefully going to be getting it ready to open it up to everyone. I am really excited to announce a new feature called Speak Pipe that I'm adding to the website. If you have any comments about an episode or just the podcast in general, I want to hear what you think about the show, and I want to give you a voice in the show also. These voice messages will be added at the end of episodes unless your message specifically says not to. So for any other comments or inquiries, you can use the contact form, but all you have to do to record a message to me is go to the contact page on the website, scroll down to the big orange button, and press record. It just emails me the message, and I will get them. It's orange right now because I'm just doing a free trial to see if you like this and if it's popular and you'll enjoy hearing them at the end of each episode. I think I might try a paid version. Oh my gosh. I am also enjoying a new podcast series called Retrievals. Actually, I don't even know if it's new. It's called Retrievals, where it's about where this nurse at Yale Clinic, she stole all the pain medication and replaced it with saline. So hundreds of women were doing egg retrievals without any pain medication. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. And, you know, it goes along with, it talks about the nurse and what she was tried for and the women that had the egg retrievals without pain medication. And then the Yale Clinic was sued also. And I am finding it fascinating. I'm really enjoying it. Just wondered if anybody else was listening to it also. For me, I had my chemical pregnancy with my transfer number 1, and I'm pretty much done bleeding. And just kind of reflecting on that time, you know, when I first got the news, I immediately, you know, of course I'm really upset, but I immediately wanted to change that feeling, and for multiple reasons. But I didn't want to sit in those emotions of sadness and anger, quite frankly. And I don't think that's right. Like, I think it's appropriate to be upset and to process those feelings. But I kept catching myself like, I need to be positive. I need to turn this around. And I don't think that was the right thing. I'm kind of coming out of it. We talked to our doctor, and this sadness is not so heavy anymore. And I'm kind of like getting ready mentally. I'm trying to get back in that space, and I'm making a plan of like what letters I want to write. And I really want to start journaling. And it's funny because Jake talked about future journaling, and that's actually what I have been describing is the letters that I have been writing as my future self and what it feels like to already be a mother and talking to myself now. I really enjoy doing that. And so my doctor's appointment, that was just yesterday. She assured me that it wasn't my fault and it wasn't anything I was doing. And that gave me such a sense of relief. Like, you can hear it in my voice right now. It really helped me feel relief. You know, what was interesting, a few things in this conversation I found really interesting. One, it was a chemical pregnancy, and my blood type is O negative. And so I'm used to getting a shot after each miscarriage. And she said, you don't need to after a chemical pregnancy. And I found that really interesting. She said that she's had 6 miscarriages herself. And I think she had 2 or 3 chemical pregnancies. And she said that she didn't take the shots either. So interesting. And her oldest patient, she said her cutoff is 50 years old, is the oldest that she will do a transfer. So I found that kind of cool. And I mentioned before, I wanted to ask her about donor embryos again. She said that there's a lower chance of it working than using donor eggs. And that's why we ended up using donor eggs. I'm sure it's different with other clinics, but for her, she says that you only adopt one embryo at a time. And as far as a timeline for me, she's basically left it in my hands as to when I'm ready to do it. She did suggest doing 2 tests. Well, she mentioned one test and she recommended another. She recommended doing the CD138, and she said that's where you biopsy a little bit of my uterus to see if it's inflamed. And if it's inflamed, then we can treat that before actually doing another transfer. The other one, I am so just interested in this test, which I don't think we'll do, but I still want to mention it because I'm so fascinated by it. She said that, your gut bacteria has a lot of bacteria, good and bad in it. And she said, also the vagina and the uterus has bacteria in it. I mean, obviously, duh. But she said there's lactobacillia in the uterus, which is also the same bacteria which makes fermented foods, which, I have my passion about over there. But I found that interesting, and I would kind of just love to know what it is, just for, I don't know, just like a cool thing to know. I don't know. But she said those 2 tests are kind of new. She said the CD138 she believes is going to be a standard test coming in the future. Like, it's not common right now because it just hasn't been introduced, and I think they're still kind of working on it. But I think we might do that. I think she said in the next week or two. I think she's going to get back to me early next week about doing that. And then I think I want to try natural for just, a month or two, just so I can prepare myself better mentally and physically and be ready for the transfer maybe in October or something around there. She also told me, apart with the pregnancies, she said 40% of pregnancy loss is unexplained. Tell me, who hears that and feels better? Like, no one. Maybe just a small percentage do I feel a tiny bit better. And she also said that I don't need to be taking any other supplements other than a prenatal vitamin. And I said, but what about the low aspirin? I've heard from so many women, including my doctor, suggest of doing the low dose aspirin. And she said there's no research that supports low dose aspirins prevents miscarriage. So I guess I'm going to stop. She is such a researcher that I really enjoy that aspect of her. And so I think I'm not going to take it anymore. And I literally wrote down notes. These are my notes from our phone call, our Zoom call. I have to write things down. And plus, because you're listening to the phone call and what she's saying, and I can never remember anything because my emotions are just at a high. So I write everything down, and sometimes I do go back and read stuff like I am now. So that's what's up with me, and things are going to be probably a little quiet with me, other than me kicking butt, working out, and eating right, and mentally getting prepared again. And with that, let's get into Jake's pregnancy story at 51. Jake, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jamie.
Jake, and before we get started, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Wow, where to start? My parents were gospel singers, so I actually grew up in the entertainment industry, which made it not such a surprise when I decided that's kind of, the direction that I wanted to go. So I was in a touring band based out of Canada called Farmer's Daughter, and we were on the road about 270 days out of the year. Yeah, so in a touring band, and I remember our manager, who was also my father, whenever it was a female country trio called Farmer's Daughter, and my father would always say, whenever anyone of us would talk about, family and, when are we going to have time for our lives and our love and our, and he'd be like, Sarah in the Bible was 88. You got lots of time. Well, wasn't so funny after, like 45, I was like 45, 46. And I had come to the conclusion in my life that there's more than one right way to get through this life. And I just accepted that I was going to be the aunt, the fun aunt that was, that did not have children of her own. And I was okay with that until the love story of my life came back around. So my husband, I met 38 years prior in a gospel band, and we stayed in contact, and he went on to have, fame in the EDM world of, he's a singer in the world of EDM music, lots of hits with David Guetta. And I was doing my own thing in the country music world, and our lives reconvened. And that love story is what made us both say, what feels right now is to have a family. And it was, for me, it was less about becoming a mother. And, like some people, like a girlfriend of mine, she just always knew that she was meant to be a mother, and that she, whether she was in a relationship or not, wanted that experience. That wasn't my experience until it became about the two of us together. And then, began the journey of figuring out how at that stage, in life, that was going to happen.
And before we get to that story, will you tell us a little bit about your name?
My name. My mother laments my name because she named me this French name, Jacqueline. And somehow along the road, someone nicknamed me Jake, just started out of the blue calling me Jake. And, it was a boyfriend way back when. And it's really weird how nicknames happen, because people who I'd known for a very long time would hear him calling me Jake, and they started calling me Jake. And I just started in the country music industry, and people were introduced to me and heard other people calling me Jake. And I guess that's how nicknames go. But I mean, I could, I've had people ask me, oh, you must have been such a tomboy, you're called Jake. And I'm like, I could not be the furthest thing from a tomboy. So yeah, it's stuck. And now my entire family calls me Jake. I haven't been called, people used to call me Jackie or Jacqueline. And when I hear that, like from an aunt that I haven't, who's known me since a baby, I don't even respond anymore. It's like, it doesn't make sense. That name doesn't make sense to me anymore.
I love it. I'm a huge fan of masculine names.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I love it. So let's get to the part where y'all are trying to figure out how to have a baby together.
So when we started this conversation, Christopher was the one who initiated. He said, I don't know if this is something that you would even consider, but I want to have a baby. I want to leave a legacy, and I don't want to do this with anyone but you. And when he said that, I was already in my late 40s, and I just kind of looked at him and I went, well, that's so sweet. So we'll find a surrogate and we'll get some egg donors. And he said, no, I really want you to carry this baby. And I honestly, I didn't know it was possible. Like I put it aside to the point where I didn't even think that was a possibility for me. So when he suggested it, I started doing a little research. I thought, okay, you know what? I'm open to this. If this is possible. I was in great shape at the time. And, I felt like I was eating well. I was in, good physical shape. I was working out. I was, doing all the things and meditating. And I thought, okay, maybe I can do this. So I started doing a little research, and we found a company in New York City and I'm trying to think of the name of it now, but it didn't end up being a fit. And this was one of the things that I learned through this whole journey, is that, everything is figure outable. Everything is up for discussion. Just because you've gone down a road with someone who's incredibly reputable, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a fit for you. And you are able to say, this doesn't feel right. And I know I'm going to be on this journey for a little while. So I want to be able to feel great about, this decision. So we started looking into who really specialized in geriatric pregnancies, which, it's one of my least favorite words, but hey, it's the one that people are using. So, so we initially started down this path with one doctor and ended up shifting to a whole, another facility. Also in New York City, my husband lived in Manhattan for quite some time, and we found a doctor we absolutely loved, and he came very highly recommended and had great results with people my age. So we figured this was definitely our home. But we lived in Atlanta, Georgia. So we had a group in Atlanta that we did all our blood work and what have you with. But when we went for our transfers, we ended up going to New York. But, in between all of that, there was a move. So I left Toronto, left my job, moved down to Georgia, and began not only, researching the fertility journey that we were on. And we knew at that point that we were not going to experiment with eggs in my body if there even were any. And we made the decision right out of the gate that the experience that we wanted to have was with an egg donor. Mm-hmm. And that was just, I think we were thinking about time. We were thinking about what kind of an experience we wanted to have. And we were concerned because I was at such an advanced age and had the advice given to us that it would be a safer experience all the way around if we used an egg donor. So we decided to go down that path. Yeah. At the same time as we were dealing with immigration, because I was moving from another country and doing all this. And I don't advise doing those two things at the same time.
Yeah, it sounds a little stressful.
Yeah, right.
And I'm curious about the conversations you had with the fertility doctor kind of in the beginning about his concerns and what the reaction was.
Right. So basically, they were very frank. And they said, you have, about a 5% chance of this working for you.
5?
Yeah. Oh. And we left his office. And I remember kind of being in shock because being an A-type human and working in the music industry my whole life, and my husband is kind of the same energy, we just thought we were going to march in there. We were going to pay our money. I was going to take my shots and we were going to have a baby. Boom. Mm-hmm. And, that was the idea. And of course, that is not what happened at all. Yep. But we walked out of that office and I felt very devastated at that point. And like, oh man, like this isn't what I expected. And my husband was like, yay, it's 5%. It's not 0. But it was kind of like that glazed look like, I'm going to cheer, but yeah. So, but you know what? We had a long discussion and we decided that we were not going to let anything get in our way. And both of us were really delving at that time into a lot of mindset, a lot of manifestation work. Both of us were into the thinking into results with Bob Proctor. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's an amazing program. And it's all about mindset. It's all about how to manifest, how the laws of the universe and energy and all of that stuff. And so we just said, you know what, we are going to go for this. And we believe that we would be amazing parents and we love each other. And it was just a choice. And we were so gung-ho. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, like when you don't know what you don't know, yes. That energy, it's like, nothing's going to get in our way. And it was interesting because a lot of people came up to us and they're like, oh yeah, my friends have, they've been in this whole experience. And anyway, everyone wants to tell you their horror stories. Everyone else's experience is not yours.
That's right.
And it's vital that you bear that in mind at every turn, that when people want to share how so-and-so mortgaged their house and it didn't ever work out for them. And now you just go, you put on the earmuffs and you go, la, 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 la. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Because when you have blinders on, it's amazing what can happen for you.
Yeah. And what was your experience like selecting an egg donor?
So interestingly enough, and looking back, I have to say, Jamie, that there's no right way to do this. There's no wrong way to do this. And initially, there was a huge egg donor bank within the Langone Fertility Center. And initially, we just put all our information into the computer, all of my stats, basically. We were going to try and clone me. And then the donors would pop up and they would chat and, nothing felt right. I was like, no, 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 no. And so I suggested to my husband, my niece, who I was very close with, my brother's daughter. And he was like, oh, no, too weird. Christmas is going to be a freak show. We can't do this. And that didn't sit well with me. At first, I'm like, okay, well, if you're not comfortable with it, I get it. And then, you know, like my competitive spirit came in and I'm like, well, you know what? Yes, I want to carry the baby. But now that you got me wound into this whole idea, and I'm like, yes, I want some DNA involved if we can, you know? So he sat with it for a while and he said, well, look, before we even go to her, Savannah, gorgeous niece, who I was very close with, and my brother and I, very close. Let's talk to Kim. That's my brother's name. Kim and Jake, of course. And, right. And his wife, Faye, my sister-in-law, who has been my best friend forever, said, if we talk to them and they have no reservations, then we'll approach Savannah. And we knew that it for us, our family is so tight that if everyone wasn't on board, you know, it wouldn't feel right. And the other thing is everyone had to be involved. Like this was not going to be something that we were going to do, you know, quietly or without talking to everyone in the family, you know. So we called my brother and sister-in-law. It was a video chat, and we said, this is what we're thinking, but we won't go forward with it if you guys aren't on board. And they were like, are you kidding? This is the most amazing news. So we called Savannah, and before it was even completely out of my mouth, she was like, yes, 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 yes. So she moved from Vancouver to stay with us in Georgia. And we began, you know, prepping and, you know, just we wanted to have her with us during the whole thing. So it ended up being probably one of the most amazing experiences. And, you know, we would all fly together to New York for all of the appointments. And we were there during Fashion Week. And she's like this little fashionista. So she was thrilled with all of it.
How old was she?
She was 25 at the time. Okay. Yeah. And matter of fact, it was amazing. Yeah. So when we went in to have the egg retrieval, you know, we were expecting, you know, around 10 eggs. It was like, I guess is the average. She ended up getting like 17 eggs.
Wow,
they called her the golden goose. And then, you know, we had testing done on all of them, and we ended up with 7 embryos out of the whole batch, which was amazing.
That's amazing.
But the experience then kind of even ramped up for me, because not only is it my family that I know our history, and we know generations back, but then to know that it was especially her, you know, I mean, being so close in all that time, that it's just to have that extra, like, it's not just an egg donor, it's not just a family member, but it's Savannah, you know, my little smoots who I used to take on, you know, on tour with me and stuff like that. So it was really a beautiful experience.
Yeah. And I bet your bond is just stronger than ever.
Oh my gosh. And I'm so grateful for the genetic link. And again, you know, I mean, the family is the family, the child is the child. You know, I know that it would have been beautiful anyway, that we would have sliced it. But for me and for my family, this was the right choice. And it has brought all of us such incredible joy. And to see the genetic links and see things in Avalon, that's the name of my daughter. Avalon, you know, like when she runs, this one arm is kind of straight down, the other one, you know, kind of pumps up and down. And the first time she did that, my brother and sister-in-law and I looked at each other and just went, oh my gosh, because that's exactly the way Savannah ran when she was that. So it's just like little things like that are just like double heartwarming. So yeah, it's been really an amazing journey.
Yeah, because you watched her grow up as Savannah, and now you see her in your daughter. That's
Yeah. And,
beautiful.
one of the videos actually of Farmer's Daughter is called Family Love. It was one of our first videos. And Savannah was in that video at 5 years old. And I look back and I see her in these videos. Well, she was actually in more than one of our music videos, but to see her at that age and think, oh my gosh, if we knew,
Yeah.
she in those videos where she's 5 years old, she's carrying
Yeah.
my daughter.
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
So cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now we're at the transfer. Walk us through. Was the first one successful? How did it go?
No. And like I said, Chris and I were just like, never even occurred to us that the first transfer wouldn't be our baby. We were thinking, like, what are we going to do with all these children? Like, we're going to have a baseball team and we were just going to have all of them. And,
Yeah.
so we go through the first transfer and it is an unsuccessful transfer. And so, the nurse, I love this woman to this day, but I think it was harder on her to deliver the news that it was a failed transfer. Then, the first, she's like, oh, hi, Jake. I don't have it. I ended up consoling her at the end of the conversation. It's like, you know what? We're going to try again. It's going to be okay. And we had my ring set to New York, that starts spreading the news. So I was like, when I think back, it's like the whole thing was kind of bonkers. Like every time we'd hear that, we get that feeling like that's the call coming in. That's So the first one was a failed transfer. The second one was a viable. It was a positive pregnancy, and we miscarried at about 8 weeks.
Was this your first miscarriage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then failed transfer. That's 5. And Avalon was number 6.
Oh.
But it's that feeling of, so they give you the paper that has the photograph of the embryo, and it was 1 thawed embryo, 7 remaining. 1 thawed embryo, 6 remaining. 1 thawed embryo, 5 in every photo that they gave. And at first it's like, oh, we've got 6 left. We're fine. Then it's like, we've got 5 left. So when it came to Avalon, and I've got this photo of her holding the picture of her embryo, and it was like seeing the 1 thawed transfer, 1 left. All of a sudden, obviously the emotions shift, and it's like that desperation of the sky.
Yeah.
But I found that the failed transfers for me were equally as emotionally painful as the miscarriage.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. And then towards the last transfer, they called it an unexplained situation because everything was in line. It didn't make sense that it wasn't working. And I have to say too that we had outside, we had the most amazing integrative doctor, Dr. Kim. I mean, this man did research on Dr. Licciardi, who was our endocrinologist in New York. He researched how he worked, what he did, his, papers that he wrote, his, and based on that, our integrative doctor made choices to supplement our health and our, the kind of acupuncture. And he was Western medicine, but he also did a lot of Chinese medicine. There was a lot of mind body stuff that was going on at the time. And I believe with all my heart that it was the supplementation of these mind body practices, along with the Chinese medicine, along with the acupuncture that kept the energy and the chi flowing, that allowed me at 51 to give birth to my first baby.
That's
Which
so
I'm
amazing.
telling you right now, Jamie, like if anyone would have told me 10 years ago, I would have told them they were cracker doodles. Because not only did I not know it was pregnant, but I just, that happening in my body, I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah.
You know.
So how was it getting that positive pregnancy test?
You mean the Avalon number 6?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
weird. I'm going to tell you. Like, and so first of all, we go to New York, and this time, and Dr. Kim, every single time it's like, okay, we're not just going to do the same thing over and over and over again. We're going to, every single time it's like we do all the things, but then we add something to it. And this time he said, don't fly. Because I'd fly there. We would stay for a couple of, we would stay for several days after the transfer just to let everything settle.
Sure.
And then we'd get on a plane and come home. And he said, this time I really don't want you to fly home. Cabin pressure is no joke. And, hey, let's do something different. So Chris was on tour at the time. So he was in Europe. My mother flew from Canada. We flew to New York, had an amazing week. And my mother-in-law said too, she said, you know what, just eat ice cream while you're there. Just anything, basically, she's saying anything to bring you pleasure and happiness and release the endorphins.
Yeah, relaxing.
And then we took the train home from New York City to Atlanta, Georgia. And it was so much fun. Like we got this little cabin, but it was, it's like, this is the thing that we're going to do different this time.
Mm-hmm.
And also all the while I was doing what's called autosuggestion and future journaling. And this is like the mindset segment of what I did. If you would see my journals that I have, it's like Jack Nicholson in The Shining when he was just writing the same thing over and over and over again. I have journals of, I am so happy and grateful now that I've given birth to our healthy full-term baby. Over and over, every morning, every night. And then the future journaling, I'm not sure if do you know anything about future journaling?
No, tell us.
So future journaling is when you write as if you are living with your goal achieved. So I would write out, it's 5:30 in the morning. It's the day of our blood test. The transfer was 9 days prior. It's the day of our blood test. I get up and everything, sights, sounds, smells, what fragrance I put on, what clothes I put on, the alarm goes off. We're driving to get the blood test. I would write about the interactions with our girls at the office who we'd become very dear friends with, and write what they would say to Chris, teasing him about, the fact that he'd get so dressed up to go to these things at like 7:00 in the morning. It's my husband. And just like write everything to the detail. Then we go and have breakfast afterwards. And then the phone rings. And on the other end of the phone is the nurse. And she says, I have great news. Congratulations. The pregnancy test is positive. And I write about our embrace and how happy we were. And, that I would future journal every day along with my I'm so happy and grateful autosuggestion. And again, you can say what you want. We'll never have proof that that was what worked or that was what, but it was my beliefs. And I think this is the most important thing that I learned through all of this is that your belief system or your limiting beliefs have a direct result on your results in general. And I believe that across the board in my whole life, in everything that I deal with. I love it. I believe in it. I think it's really powerful stuff. Jamie, nothing ever works out the way, like even my wonderful future journaling, that's not how it happened, but it did plant the seeds of the positive end result, right? So we kind of realized that if we were going to get a positive result, the one positive result we got, it came in the morning and then all the other calls came in the afternoon. So we got our test done. We went to a, I think it was at SCAD-FASH. It was like this beautiful display of a really famous designer's work. We just wanted to go somewhere where things were beautiful and we were distracted. Mm-hmm. So we went and we're waiting, looking at the watch. We're trying to be cool and we're like open-fisted, whatever the universe has for us. But inside we're like, and the call didn't come and it didn't come and it didn't come. It was 4:00 in the afternoon. We're just like, okay, we know it's going to be negative. And the nurse called and said, did you get your blood done today? And we're like, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding me right now? I said, yes, at 7:00 this morning. She goes, well, we can't find it. So they go back. We're holding our breath. She calls back in an hour and says, you got a positive test? And we hung up and we just stared at each other blankly. Like, I think we were so emotionally invested that there was just, it was almost like there was no emotion there, which I know sounds so strange after 6 transfers, but I think sometimes you can be so emotionally exhausted that even the good news is just like, flatline. Now, the next day when we kind of came out of the shock, of course we were elated. And then the next journey began. Uh-huh. And the next journey for me was that I actually bled for my entire first trimester.
Oh my gosh.
And if for anyone out there who has had a miscarriage, you know that even the tiniest, slightest hint of blood is just like this. I mean, the panic, it's like it's something that just runs through your whole body right up to your head. And you know that feeling, but every day. And so again, I had to find ways to ground myself, to center. Yeah. And I literally lived on, again, with the Dr. Kim, he introduced me to some incredible guided meditations. And there were days when I would listen to these meditations like 2 and 3 and 4 times. Like, I would just lay down, put the headphones on, and go through the energy chakras and the positive, and just these beautiful soothing voices that would literally get my heart rate to a point where I could breathe and be okay with whatever was going to happen and trust that process. Because in my state, with all the hormones and all those, I didn't feel capable of grounding myself. Like, my emotions were so on the edge. Yeah. And these are the things for me that brought me back to a state of going, okay, I feel that calm in my heart and my body, and I feel okay with whatever is happening for me.
Well, what happened? Why were you bleeding?
For me, because of my age, we really had to pump up the lining of my uterus. And it was apparently, again, this is something that I learned. It is not uncommon. And just the lining part of it just had to come out. And it was, obviously Avalon 6, it was once we got through the first trimester, it just stopped.
Like magic.
It just stopped. I had a very beautiful pregnancy, after that, but that first trimester was really cuckoo. It was really a lot because, like I said, there was at least a little bit of something almost every day. Yeah. But again, I can't say enough about, building your village and having your support system around you. Dr. Kim, I wanted to tell you also, having different specialists who are supporting one another is really a beautiful thing too. Dr. Kim was our touchstone, and my husband went for acupuncture too. And this was something that Dr. Kim said from the very beginning. He's like, we treat the female. We treat the female. We treat the female like she's doing this on her own. Yeah. Yes, the baby lives in our body, but he treated my husband. He gave my husband acupuncture every time he gave me acupuncture because it's energy.
Yeah.
And I'm convincing my husband that I would love for him to be a voice in this for husbands, because I think a lot of times they feel very separated and very left out of the process and helpless, because their job is very momentary. And then, if you're going the route of IVF or, stuff like that, they just sit back and watch everything that's happening in our bodies and this feeling of helplessness. So him actually being involved in having treatment done as well, it really brought us together. When I was pregnant with Avalon, we were watching the levels at the very beginning, and they want those levels to jump. You want those levels to jump in large increments. And one of my blood tests in the beginning of my first trimester was up around 9,000 something. And I got a call from our people in New York, and they said, we're a little concerned. It's a little lower. It was a little lower. It was a little lower than they wanted. And they kind of were hoping from the last one that it would be up around 10,000. And so they said, we'd like you to come back in tomorrow morning, do another blood test, and we'll see, hopefully it'll be, a little higher. And so I called Dr. Kim immediately, and I'm hysterical. And I'm like, this is what's happening. He said, come on out. And he said, he's rubbing his hands together. And he said, I've been wanting to do this acupuncture approach that I learned from so-and-so in China. Like, he would go and study with these people overseas. I know it sounds like I'm making this stuff up, but he did this specific protocol on my body. And the next morning I went in for the test, and they called me and they said, Jake, we don't know what happened overnight, but you're up at like 14,000 today. And we're not really sure what to attribute that to, but congratulations. Everything looks great. Call Dr. Kim. And I'm like, can you believe it? And he goes, well, of course. What do you think we're doing? And I love this man for his ego and confidence and just, willingness to try everything with us. And I think that's another message that I got through all of this is you do all the things.
Yes.
All the things.
Yeah.
And I agreed. I made an agreement with myself, but also, anything that was asked of me that I researched and I was on board with, I was like, I'm going to say yes, even if it sounds cuckoo, like the mind body woman. I speak about this in the book. She had me initially write a letter to my body like it was a separate entity. And the letter starts out, and when she told me what I was supposed to do as my homework assignment, I kind of went, okay, that sounds a little woo-woo for me, but hey, in the interest of trying everything, I'm gonna go home and do this. So I went home, and you start out by saying, thank you for everything that you've always been there for me. I want to thank you for everything that you've done for me. I want to ask forgiveness for everything that I've done to you without permission, all those late nights and bad food and maybe overindulging in the alcoholic beverages from time. Just, go through and make a list of everything that you may have done to your body that was, not the kindest. Fad diets, whatever. And then ask permission. Will you go on this journey with me? And by the end of writing this letter, like, I am sobbing. It became such a cathartic, beautiful exercise that at the end of it, when I was asking, I know that at this stage in life, you are ready to ride off into the sunset of menopause. And I'm saying, hey, let's do what we're supposed to do when we're supposed to, like what most people do way earlier on in life. Let's do this thing. And it was an incredible experience. And again, that support from the integrative side, along with our endocrinologists that were full on, Western medicine kind of thing. It was a beautiful mix of all of that kind of kept us grounded through the whole thing.
I love that.
Mm.
And at what point did you go to your regular local OB, if that's the doctor you chose?
Yes. When we got the positive pregnancy test is when I found my OB.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, we had a recommendation, which is always great, but it ended up being such an incredible practice of 7 female OBs. And we got to see each one of them so that when you go into labor, you're not meeting a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever's on call was the one who delivered the baby. But we kind of had one that we really connected with, and we ended up getting her. So it was Dr. Rivka, who, she was just amazing. And we had a doula.
You said you had a really good pregnancy. Tell us a little bit more about your pregnancy.
Okay. So once the first trimester was over, and I was pretty nauseated, never threw up, but it was just like all day long, I felt like I was on the verge. But then it's like the minute the first trimester was over, it just seemed like that lifted. I've always been into a yoga practice, but I found this beautiful Kundalini pregnancy yoga practice that I did every day. Mm-hmm. And right up until they admitted me into the hospital. And a lot of that was breathing and really kept my morale up, but it was also a really gentle, form of exercise through the whole pregnancy. I like the outside of the grocery store, I always say, let's stay on that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And even when we were talking about the possibility of a surrogate, I'm like, Chris, I just don't know. Like, what is she going to eat when she's not around us? How can we know? And we cook really beautiful food in our home. And there were a couple of months there where it was just like, I cut off traffic to get across 2 lanes to get into the lineup at Taco Bell. It's all I wanted.
Oh,
Taco Bell, Burrito Supreme. I mean, just Christopher's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea, but I need it. That didn't last for long, but it's just like there were a couple of things. And then for the bulk of my pregnancy, though, shawarma and ramen. I had 2 cravings and, kind of lived on that. I also experienced gestational diabetes, which that was an interesting experience too. I went to see the dietitian and she gave me some really incredible advice. And honestly, by the next day, and I'm not even exaggerating, of rearranging what I was eating, we were able to control the whole situation without going down the path of medication, which, I mean, and no shade if that's the path you're taking, sure. Because we do, again, I say this with all confidence, we do whatever we have to do to move things forward and keep things stable. So if medication is what is required for your situation, all hail medication. Yeah. For me, it was about eating the wrong things first thing in the day, not having enough carbohydrate to balance out, the protein and the fruit that I was, and the blood sugar situation, would spike. So in the mornings I'd start with a smoothie and my blood sugar would spike. And then so I started waking up and having, protein first thing in the morning, and it literally, everything just went reboot. And, and of course I had to test my blood after every meal for the rest of the pregnancy, which, hey, small price to pay. And it, sometimes it would creep up a little bit, but for the most part, we were able to control it just by being mindful of when, how often, not letting myself get too hungry, and starting out the day with a higher protein level. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was.
Now, when you were looking for that doctor, was there anything important to you that you were looking for?
Which doctor are you speaking of?
The OB.
No, I really was not. A girlfriend of mine who had 2 children just highly recommended this practice. She said they're just it's a beautiful hospital that they're working out of, and they are so attentive. And she just had such an incredible experience with them that I just said, okay, I trust you. And that was my introduction to you know, who ended up Dr. Ribka, who ended up being our OB.
Okay. And what about the gender? Did you find that out during birth?
We found that out during the testing of the embryos.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you knew it was a girl from the beginning.
We had like 3 boys and 4 girls. And so it was like, I think we'll try a boy this time. I think we'll try. Doesn't that just sound bonkers?
Hey, if that's what you have available, I mean, you might as well.
Yeah.
That is really neat. No gender reveal necessary.
Nope.
And was there any product that you couldn't live without that you would recommend that helped you?
Yeah, well, I have to say that you know, back to the yoga, that was really, honestly, that was my lifeline. But I did live for the body pillow. Absolutely. And we have this bed. We joke about it because it looks like a giant hospital bed. It's one of those Tempur-Pedics that you can raise the bottom up, you can raise the top up. But towards the end, my feet did get really swollen. And so that bed where we could lift the bottom of it up was just like, I lived in that bed with the feet up. Yeah, for sure. And ginger, I ate a lot of ginger. I had incredible heartburn towards the end. And so I found that ginger tea, even sometimes like candied ginger, although I went real easy on that just because of the sugar content, but ginger was really soothing to me.
And how did you prepare for your baby?
You know, it's funny because we didn't start with the nursery or anything like that. I think there was something in our minds that were like, you know, let's just, you know, when you've been through 5 transfers, it's just, you know, yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm grateful. Yes, I'm all in. Yes, I believe, but I'm just going to ride it out as it comes. You know, that was the thing. And then 1 month before her due date, we went in and my blood pressure was off the charts. So they admitted me immediately, which was very upsetting because we had this ritual of going to our favorite restaurant, Houston's, for lunch right after my appointments. So when they decided to admit me, I'm like, okay, so when am I going to be like out? And the doctor at that point said, when you have the baby. And I was like, no, that is not the plan. And I didn't realize how much of a control freak I actually was. And I say was because the whole experience of this fertility journey and having a baby and growing through the toddler stage to this now kid stage has taught me to really be open-fisted about everything. I mean, I had a plan about everything and nothing turned out the way that my plan was. Including our wonderful birth plan on pink cardstock that we gave to the whole nursing station, where nothing except for go home with healthy baby. And you know, I think back now, and I think like even the neonatal specialists who we saw just because of my advanced age, you know, every time that my blood pressure would be a little bit high, I would say, oh, I just need to do my yoga. As soon as I do my yoga, my blood, and he's like, towards the end, he's like, look, lady, you and your yoga, like, we need to monitor this and take very seriously what's happening. And so I really learned to trust my medical team. We questioned a lot of stuff leading up to it. For example, our first miscarriage. And again, I tell you these stories from my perspective, in my opinion, based on what happened with us, based on things we've read, based on, you know, the conversations we had with our specialists. But this may not be anyone else's situation, and I don't have medical proof that this is what happened. But when we were pregnant the first time and I started to bleed. I didn't know about the fact that you could bleed all the way through the first trimester. We went to the doctor at the time. We were still living out in the country, wasn't the same OBGYN, and they recommended an ultrasound immediately. An ultrasound is like a freight train. You know, it was an internal exam, and the next day I miscarried. So, you know, again, we don't know. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if that would have happened anyway. We'll never know. But what was recommended to us the next time we got pregnant and what we did in our experience was we said no thank you to any ultrasounds until the end of the first trimester. They used the Doppler for the heartbeat. But the question that we asked ourselves was, what difference is this going to make? Is there a possibility that it could harm the situation, or would my body eventually tell me that, you know, what is the ultrasound telling you? That the pregnancy is viable or not viable? What would happen if we didn't have that test? And that's what Chris and I, it was a very personal decision.
Sure.
It was surprising to our OB/GYN's office because everyone's usually pretty anxious to get in there and get an ultrasound. But in the spirit of trying something different and, you know, just not going down the same path every time, we said no thanks to the ultrasounds. They're like, what? You don't want to, you know, no, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait.
Yeah.
We're gonna wait. And
you know, it's
us,
in the right spot too. Because that was my thing, is because I had an ectopic, the next time I wanted to make sure it was in the right spot. But you knew it was because they put it in. So I'm with you.
Yeah. And again, like it's so personal, Jamie. Like
Sure.
For someone else, and also medically, there may have been some other reason for someone else. So I don't want anyone to think, oh, well, I should never have an ultrasound. That's not what I'm saying.
Sure.
I'm just saying that in our experience, given our history and how many failed transfers we had and the advice that we had from our, you know, experts, this worked and it felt right. And here she is, you know.
Yeah.
So.
What about classes? Did you need to prepare that way?
Well, you know, I love all that stuff. So first of all, I found a doula, and I found her when I was at this place that gave pregnancy massages, and they were just heavenly. And I saw it said the happiest doula, and this woman, Cynthia Zylo, on the front, just the biggest, most gorgeous smile on the planet. And I'm like, I love this woman in this picture. I must talk to this woman. So I came home and I said to my husband, Chris, I said, I really want to hire a doula. And he's like, oh, what? Never heard the word before in his life. And so I took a meeting with her. We hit it off. And I really was excited about having someone who was an expert that I could call and, you know, be with me during the, you know, the leading up times and give me a balance of the Western medicine and some of the, you know, like obviously the doulas really tried to encourage a natural birth, which is what we wanted, you know, that was what we wanted. And so we went through her doula organization. They had pre-birth classes and we took, I think, everything that was available to us. And honestly, it was fun, and it was, you know, it was cool to be in these classes with, you know, people who were in the same type of situation as us. So they were nice classes to go to, but you know,
well, are you ready to talk about the birth, or is there anything else you want to talk about for your pregnancy?
No, I don't think so. I learned to relax and trust. You know, there's so many things I think that we are taught to be afraid of, fearful of in this process. And, you know, as simple as one day I was just so craving sopressata, cured Italian dry salami. And I don't know what I was thinking in that baby, you know, brain stage, but I went and got like a half a pound and just started nibbling on the way home in the car until I finished the whole thing. And then it was like, oh, I ate a half a pound of luncheon meat, so loving. And so I was convinced that this baby was going to be in such trouble because I had done this thing and, punished myself for the rest of the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And, Dr. Kim, our integrative doctor, he said, well, you could just eat cardboard and white rice for the rest of your pregnancy if you want, like just basically mocking my,
Mm-hmm.
my extreme reaction. And, I think the message was, you don't want to do that every day, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so that became my motto. It's, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, fast forward birth.
Were you supposed to be induced?
Yes.
So they scheduled that.
So here's what happened that day that my blood pressure was just off the charts, and they admitted me, and they found protein in my urine. So we found out that I was experiencing preeclampsia at that
Mm-hmm.
point. So they were not letting me out of the hospital, and they were monitoring every day. We were at 36 weeks at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just sure that she was not baked, not ready to come out. I was like, no. And finally, our Dr. Ripka came in and she said, look, healthy baby, healthy you, it's time. And so we decided to induce. And so first thing in the morning, we induced, and I was in labor till about 4:00 in the afternoon. And what we experienced was that with every contraction, Avalon's heartbeat was plummeting, and it was not coming back up as quickly as they would like. Mm-hmm. And it was actually starting to take longer to get her heart rate up to the point where they felt comfortable. And so at one point they said, we're going to call this. Now, you can decide to induce again tomorrow, but we cannot guarantee that she's going to have a better response. Matter of fact, it's possible that she could have more of a traumatic response. And then we're doing, an emergency C-section. So our doula is there and we're conferring. And I really expected our doula to push a little bit further as far as no surgery. But she looked at me and she said, Jake, as it stands, you've got monitors, you're not walking around the room. We're already edging away from a natural childbirth anyway. And she said, I feel like you're really getting great medical advice, and I'm not going to push against this. So Dr. Rebecca came back in and she said, so when did you decide? And we said, we're going to go ahead now with the C-section. And so they prepped. We chose a little Oscar Peterson playing in the background. It felt like cocktail hour, but not really. Mm-hmm. And it was the most peaceful, beautiful birth. Again, it's so funny because in my mind leading up to it, I left room for what I planned, the exercise ball, the candles, all of that. And here we were in the OR. And when it was all said and done, it's like any way that it ends up rolling out for you it can be so beautiful. Like I never imagined a C-section being beautiful, but it was incredible. And, they brought her out and we got to see her. And then Chris went along with Avalon for all the cleanup, and they took care of me. And I was in the recovery room, and this was something that I hadn't known about, but my body began to just shake to the point of almost feeling like it was convulsing, and they brought that little baby in and set her on my chest. And it was just like, unbelievable. Wow. And then they took her again to weigh her, and my body started doing that thing again. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, it was so cuckoo. And they brought her back over and they, put her on my chest, and my whole body is just stopped. I mean, the body is ridiculously amazing.
It is.
A lot of people will talk about what that is. And when the body's removed by C-section, your body's brain is going, wait a minute, where's the baby? It's like it goes into a type of shock. But when that baby is placed on your chest again, it all stops.
Wow.
It's incredible.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And was there anything else during the birth? Were you able to prolong the cord clamping or skin on skin? Was any of that important?
It was very important. Oh, see, there was something else on my beautiful pink cardstock that ended up going the way we wanted. The nurses, they take that thing and they kind of roll their eyes. Yes, we'll make sure and follow each one of these 500 instructions that you've left for us here.
That's so me.
Right? And hey, you know what? It's okay. You get that cardstock and you let them know what you want. At least it's out there. So we were able to do that, and we also had arranged for the placenta
to encapsulate.
Well, actually, this company did smoothies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
interesting. But so they froze them, or was it fresh?
Fresh, yeah.
Okay.
But we didn't end up doing that either because of the preeclampsia. It was the lining was compromised.
Oh.
So that didn't happen. The breastfeeding was the next thing for us because that was something that was really important to me and to Christopher as well. And, the verdict was out. A lot of, some of the people in the practice were like, you can try, but your age may play a part in that not being a part of your experience. And that was another day when I was like, no, that is not the way it's going to happen for me. It's going to happen like this. And I have to chuckle. But I think that in some circumstances, it definitely, when you decide that something is incredibly important to you and you really focus on it, quite often that your thoughts become your reality. And for me, that was something. And, even Dr. Kim was saying, look, you do whatever you have to do to keep your baby alive, period. Mm-hmm. If it's formula, you find the formula that you feel the best about and you go for it. Mm-hmm. If it's breastfeeding, great, but whatever you have to do to keep your baby healthy and alive, that's what you do. And that's the right thing. Mm-hmm. I think I've said that probably several times in this conversation that we've had, but no judgment, open heart, open mind, and whatever you have to do is the right thing. Mm-hmm. Luckily for us in our experience, Avalon latched on right away. But I will say initially, it just, you see people in the movies and it's like it just happens so naturally, and you're the mother and this is the baby and you're breastfeeding and that's that. And it's just, it didn't feel natural or comfortable right away. It's like I was trying to hold her, and it's so. Along with our doula package, we had a lactation specialist who came to our home. She showed me a few little adjustments in like the football hold where initially when she was really tiny, she was only 5 pounds, 10 ounces, 1 month early, to put her under my arm like a football and hold her with her feet going back through my arms that way. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like here I am wrestling with this little ball of no muscle tone and I just couldn't make it feel comfortable. She walks into our house and says, try this. And she's like this gentle little hippie flower. I loved her. And just was able to show me 2 or 3 little tricks that changed everything. And then from that time on, I breastfed for a year.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you showed them.
Right.
I love that.
Oh.
I think sometimes you need that mindset of just determination to really do things.
100%. I mean, I stake my life on it. I really do. we did not give up on any front.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting, and it was gut-wrenching, and it was painful, and it was exciting, and it was fun, and it was exhilarating. And at the end, to see that little face, I've never seen my husband. My husband's kind of a badass. I've never seen him cry. I've never seen anyone cry so much in my life as when this baby came out.
How sweet.
Mr. Dude with his sunglasses and his leather jacket. And I'm just like, who are you? He's like, oh. And that hasn't stopped, by the way. At preschool, kindergarten this last year, all the teachers are like, okay, and he's crying. Placing bets on
That's so cute.
when he's going to start. Yeah, I love it.
And tell us about your recovery.
So my recovery, what I noticed, first of all, my surgeon was brilliant, and I'm not kidding you. Like I know that, like, my girlfriend had a really bad experience with scarring and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I was very lucky, minimal scarring, and I don't know if I've blocked it out at this point, but I don't remember being in a whole horrible, like, pain that wasn't manageable with the incision. The constipation after was my biggest challenge. And so, yeah, all the medication going through your body and what have you, and then, trying to go with the incision. That was probably my biggest challenge, but really, honestly, it was nothing was unbearable. I was able to walk around. It was fairly decent recovery. I mean, it's still surgery. So, there's the exhaustion, obviously. And then with Avalon, she was a month early. She was 5 pounds, 10 ounces. And so we needed to wake up every 3 hours to feed her to make sure that she was, getting sustenance. But it was, I think, because we had waited so long for her and longed for her in our hearts, it was almost exciting to wake up and feed her. It was like, she's here. And Chris was really a part of that as well. Like, that was a pact that we made. And I know everyone's experience is different. And I know that there are probably people out there who are doing this solo. I also know some of my girlfriends who have had a really beautiful experience on their own. Like, this is such a weird thing where it's, yes, everybody's having a baby, but it's so personal and it's so different for everyone.
Yeah. Were you able to pump? Is that how he
Yes.
kind of helped out?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And there is a tea called Mother's Milk. We got it at Whole Foods in the tea section. And it's to encourage lactation. So on the days when I felt like, I'd pump and there wasn't a lot there, I would have some of this tea, and the next day it would flow. Like, it really worked like a charm.
Yeah, it is called Mother's Milk.
Yes. Yeah. And it's good. It's nice to drink, but it really does work.
Wow.
And then I know this is not for everyone, but one of my friends who's like a mom back in the 60s, she said, if you ever find that you're not producing milk, just have a Guinness.
A beer.
I know, a Guinness beer, the dark beer. It's got a very low alcohol content, but I swear, again, like, every once in a while, it's like, okay, things are slowing down. And so I would have a beer, and then, like, the next morning, it's just like, okay, this is crazy. Like, what is it about the Guinness Stout dark beer that helps you produce? I don't know.
Interesting.
It's funny because obviously during the pregnancy, I took no chances. Like, some people are like, oh, you have a glass of wine here or there. It's going to be okay. And I'm sure it is. I just didn't have the desire. Like, some things were appealing. I missed sushi while I was pregnant, but I did not miss. Like it didn't crave it when I saw other people, drinking. It wasn't like, oh, I wish I could have a glass of wine. For some reason that, the craving or even the thought that that sounded good. And I do enjoy a glass of red wine, but it was not on my radar during my whole entire pregnancy. And then obviously during nursing, I didn't, it wasn't a big drink fest for me there either. But every once in a while, I did have that Guinness. And I'm telling you, between that and the mother's milk tea, it was pretty incredible.
That's a new one to me. This Guinness drinking.
And is it a wives' tale? I don't know. She's one of those moms who's like, oh yeah, it works like a charm. I'm like, okay. Never heard anyone say that before, but I'm open.
Yeah. And mentally, how were you?
There was a time where it's hard to explain. There is an emptiness. Well, duh. I mean, I guess it's not so hard to explain. You live with this creature inside your body for a certain amount of time, and they are sharing everything good inside you, every nutrient, every vitamin, everything. And then all of a sudden they abscond with all the goodness out of your body. You're no longer sharing. And there is a sense of depletion. I felt that physically and I felt that emotionally. And it was like this weird, she's here and I couldn't have been happier. But some days there was just this weird empty thing. And I went directly into menopause. Like, boom. And, the doctor will say, she's, my OB said, hey, it's not such a bad thing because a lot of the symptoms of postpartum and menopause are the same. So you're kind of like hammering them both out. I felt a major ache, like my hands, my feet, my joints. And again, I thought to myself, is this because I'm, 51 or is this? And then I joined some groups of, young moms who were like, yeah, I'm having the same thing. Same thing's happening to me. So it was, that was interesting to know that my body was doing exactly what theirs was doing. And we had a really fun rapport. I went to, it was called Baby Boot Camp in one of the beautiful parks in Atlanta. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a nice way to get out and meet some other moms and take the stroller and take the baby and do this. Listen, when I tell you, it was like, take the baby out and do lunges while you're pressing the baby up, and I'm just like, and I thought to myself, I'm so competitive. I'm like, these girls are like 25, 30 years old. I'm like, I'm not going to be the last one in the line. I would have like died out there pushing myself to keep up. But there were so many of the girls there was a little group of us that used to hang out. And I'll never forget the one day we had to go around the circle and tell how old your name, your baby's name, how old you were and how old your baby was. And so it's like, my name is Catherine and this is my daughter Apple and I'm 25 and she's 3 months old. And it got to me and I'm like, I'm Jake and this is Avalon and she's 3 months and I'm 51. And one of the girls like totally tatted up and excuse my French, you can edit this out if you want. Because she's like, holy fuck. And we just started to laugh. And I said, yeah, I know, man. And she was the one who ended up being like one of my besties. And it was just so fun. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, hey, listen, I don't blame you. I know.
Whoa.
But yeah, it's been an incredible journey. And I'll tell you, I have no regrets.
I love that. Do you have anything else you want to add about your pregnancy or birth?
No, I just think that I really wanted things to happen fast. Mm-hmm. And when they didn't, part of me was angry, part of me was sad. But looking back, Jamie, I truly believe that whatever path you are taking arms you with what you need to be a parent
Mm-hmm.
in the end. That was my experience. If I would have had that little baby right away, I don't think I would have some of the amazing tools of patience and self-love and forgiveness and acceptance and open-fistedness and the ability to look back and go, okay, patience and all of the things that I think I learned as a human being, as a woman that have positioned me, to be a mom.
That's
So
perfect.
trust the process and know, like that things are working out for you, however the answers come or don't come.
I love that.
Mm.
And you mentioned a little bit, you have another embryo. Tell us what you're going to do in that.
Well, listen, COVID kind of played some tricks on all of us as far as timeline is concerned. And, just dealing with everything that was rolling out. And yes, we have another embryo. It's a little girl. She's hanging out in New York City. Avalon tells anyone who will listen that her little sister is coming. So we would definitely be going the route of a surrogate for this little baby. And you've actually caught me at a time where we are literally discussing now and looking into some different agencies around the Atlanta area. So plan is to go ahead and have this second embryo, the last embryo, it sounds like a Monday night movie, join us on this planet. I can't imagine not having her. Sometimes you look at the situation and say, what are my options? And the options for us lead to really only one viable option, and that is to make an attempt to bring her into this world. We'll see what happens.
That's so exciting. I can't wait to watch it. I hope, will you document everything?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
That'd be a good name for it, the last embryo. It happened here.
Now, going back to your body, you have gone through menopause.
Yes.
Okay. So even carrying it isn't even an option.
No.
And what has been your biggest challenge being pregnant at 51?
That's a really good question, because honestly, Jamie, I think the biggest challenge was emotional. And sometimes letting in the fear that was generated by the knowledge. I was banned by my husband from the internet. Just, of having people offer up, oh, well, that, this probably, just experience worry. Yeah. And that's where my beliefs and my mindset and all that came in and literally saved me from that, because I think there's a lot of fear that's generated in childbirth in Western medicine. Like, our bodies are really designed to do incredible things. With me at my age, I felt the responsible thing for me was to really tap into all kinds of care that we could, but really keep the fear level down. And I think that more than anything, because my body was saying yes, sure. And sometimes my emotions, my fear of, what could happen would start to rise up, and that's when I would really take control of my thoughts and my journaling and my, really outlining the success of what was going to happen for us. And but I think that would have to be the answer to that one.
Is there anything you'd recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth over 40?
I would say be very clear in your mind about what your whys are. And don't let anyone convince you that your whys are not valid, because whatever your reasons are, they are right. Arm yourself and surround yourself with incredible specialists. And if that's not in your budget, believe that whatever you have access to is right for you. I think mindset I cannot say enough about what preparing your mind for this journey can do, and the importance of it. Without that, I think it would have been a terrifying experience. And I honestly don't believe that I would have had the results that I had with my little 5%, success rate.
Yeah.
Without that belief system and the daily practice of mindset, the daily practice. There wasn't a day, like I could show you my journals. I've got so many of them filled. And it is literally planting the seed in your mind and in your body that this is what is going to happen. And the body's saying, oh, okay.
You were choosing what to think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was nothing more intentional than my being grateful and living in my mind with my goal achieved. I was going to be a mother in this situation. I was going to give birth to that child.
Beautiful. And what advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant if you could go back?
I think I gave that advice to myself while I was pregnant. When I look back now, I would just say, believe, there's Abraham Hicks is someone I love and follow. And she always says, everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. And if you believe that, then whatever road your body and your life take, you're okay with. And so I think there was a lot of worry. There was a lot of sadness. There was a lot of, some of the reaction was, because of the medication and what have you. But looking back, just to say, it's going to be okay. Any way that it turns out is going to be right. And if you can keep that forefront, which I believe by transfer number 6, I had achieved that. But I think the kindness and in the beginning, there was a lot more force. And there's a saying that force negates. And, it's difficult, if you just relax, when you relax, then it happens. Well, we know, I know that when you're, especially in the beginning stages and things aren't going your way and you're not getting the results and you're going, and you're having to live your life and do your job and all the things on top of all of this that's going on, it's a little hard to relax. So, by the time I got to embryo 6, I was very much in the practice of the autosuggestion and the writing of the mantras and the meditating and the fertility jewelry and, all of these things that grew and came about through the journey. That's what I would love to encourage people who are just starting out, that there is a way to take some of the stress off you by a daily practice of some of these, methodologies and modalities of wellness and mindset that really change the game.
I love that. And where can we find more of you? Tell us about your book and your website and how you help other women.
Yes. So my website is called the Jake Take. It's my take on all things getting and staying pregnant. So it's TheJakeTake.com, thejaketake.com. And there's, stories about, where I came from and basically, what I offer women who are going down this path is everything that I would have loved as I went through this journey. When I move forward with this, I try and embody everything that would have, made things easier for me or would have been a really great, help during the time that I was getting pregnant. And also things that I did have. The support group that I did have, sometimes it's hard when you're going through all the things to be able to think outside of the box, to be able to be creative about your care and, taking care of yourself. And I was really blessed to also at that same time be exposed to some people who had some great ideas. And so I love sharing that and helping bring relief to what can be a very stressful time. And then also on that same, the book that also the book, that was a really fun thing that came up. So I'm in the process of writing a children's book about the egg donation and the IVF process.
Oh, I love that.
Because when we were going through our coaching and counseling before we started the process, we saw a counselor. We met with a counselor, Chris and I by ourselves, my niece Savannah by herself, and then the three of us together to really define what this was going to look like in the beginning, in later years, what everyone's roles were going to be, just to make sure that we all understood what we were getting into. And they said for Chris and I, if we were going to tell Avalon that she was a result of an egg donation and IVF process, to start telling the story when she was still, days old. So I started creating this story and, really am in the process now of writing that book to help parents talk to their kids about how special it is that this is the way they came about. I reached out to a publisher and they heard my story and they said, oh man, the kids book is great. But right now there's a book that I'm putting together that is a co-authorship between 16 women. It's called Woven. And each chapter is a different woman's story about something that was very difficult for them or a real challenge in this life. And the key to the whole book is how, as women, all of these challenges bring about reaching in to yourself and finding something deep inside you that helps you through, and that we are all woven together into a fabric that, as different as all these situations were, we still had to draw on the same faith and belief and strength that women have to go through these incredible life-altering experiences. And that book actually went number one on Amazon. So we're very proud of it. And
cool.
Very exciting.
Do you mind me asking what your roles are with your niece that y'all created?
For us, the questions that were asked of her were basically, how do you see yourself interacting with this creature? Do you see yourself, because the problems arise at times with people who don't have those conversations. And when the baby is here, the egg donor will feel like they have say in, disciplining the child, or I'm the mother as well, or, this kind of, so it was very much, we agreed on the fact that it is the same as a organ transplant or a blood, transfusion, that she did not give us a baby. She gave us a piece of biology that allowed us to create this life, and that her role is very much the role of, she's a cousin. That's how they refer to each other. But Avalon knows very specifically that Savannah is the one who had that, that missing piece that mommy and daddy didn't have. She knows the story. And they have this ridiculous bond. It's incredible when you see them together. They're just like, matter of fact, I'm at my folks right now, and Savannah's coming in on Thursday, and Avalon is just like counting the sleeps. And it's so incredible to see the two of them together. There's never been an issue, and they're very close. And I think part of it is that we've been so transparent about everything. There's no, Avalon has known since she's known anything that's how she came into this world, and that's her connection to it. And
we kind of went through that with counseling when we were looking at egg donors, and we had to do the counseling at first. So I find that really interesting. And we agreed to that we just want to start from the beginning to tell them that you were an egg donor. Peace. Yeah.
Well, when my children's book is done, I'll make sure you get a copy.
Oh, yeah. I'll need it.
You can just read that to your little.
Yeah. I'd love that. It's such a unique experience for them too.
Mm.
Yeah. So cool. What's the timeline on this book?
That's a good question. I literally just I became a certified parent coach, which is, I mean, maybe that's a conversation for another time. But so that's been taking up a large part of my bandwidth, and so now I'm coming to I've launched that business now, and so I'm starting to get into the groove of that. So the book is back on.
Okay, exciting.
So hopefully within the next year. I've got all the little pieces that come together, the illustrator and all of that. We're still just kind of eking that all out. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Jake, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story.
It has been an absolute pleasure, Jamie. Thank you so much for having me.
And that wraps up another amazing pregnancy story over 40 on Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant podcast. If you enjoyed that episode, please do me a huge favor and go to your podcast player and give us a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it, and this helps us be able to reach out to more women. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.